Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? My name is Josh, and welcome to another episode of The Port Side. The Port Side is a series of videos dedicated to the co-angler of all levels that compete in tournaments. Or not, maybe not. In this video, we're going to do the co-angler technique of the month. And no matter where you are, there's one thing we have in common right now, and it's the spawn. The spawn is either going on or about to go on. And during the month of April, the one bait that will produce bites no matter what the fish are doing is a Wacky Rig. Now, a Wacky Rig works any time of the year, but it seems to be most effective when the fish are shallow, especially when the fish are spawning. In the pre-spawn, I'm typically throwing it on a weedless setup, and I'm targeting the fish in staging areas that are just outside of known spawning areas. And I'm throwing it around some kind of cover on secondary points or other staging areas or transition areas to the spawning areas. The type of cover varies sometimes, but two of my favorites are docks and laydowns. Another thing that occurs during the pre-spawn, the immediate pre-spawn, is the cruising fish. You get a lot of fish that get up shallow and just cruise, and they're looking for areas to bed. And there's no other technique out there that catches cruising fish better than a Wacky Rig. It is absolutely killer on cruising fish, and it's a very finesse technique. Usually the cruisers are really skittish, and you're able to place this bait in there with minimal splash, and and even downsize to a 4-inch bait or 3-inch even, and finesse some fish into biting. Next, you have the spawn. These fish can be really difficult to catch at times, but there's something about the slow flutter of a Wacky Rig that hangs in their face a long time that they just can't stand. They unload on it. Typically, if I could see them, I'm typically bed fishing or sight fishing with a Wacky Rig. It's usually not my first choice for multiple reasons, but if I can't see them, this becomes a huge player, because I'll throw it to areas where I believe a bed may be and just let that bait soak. And then after I let it sit for a while, I'll hop it up and I'll let it do it again. And I'm not moving it very far, maybe max of 2 feet, but I'm keeping that bait in what I believe to be the area of the bed for a maximum amount of time. One thing that I do during the spawn to increase my bites is I downsize. Now this is a 4-inch bait, but you could even go to a 3 or 3.5-inch bait, weightless soft plastic, and throw in there. And here's the reason. A lot of times during the spawn, the fish aren't eating the bait out of a feeding response. It's more of a protective response, a get out of my bed type response. So what they do is they come up and they grab the least amount of the bait as they possibly can. By downsizing, I'm getting that hook closer to the fish, right? I'm getting it closer to inside the mouth. So that just increases my odds of getting a hook in the fish. Another thing that this does is this. It makes you slow down. A 3-inch or 4-inch bait the fall rate is slower than a 5 or 6-inch bait. So it makes you slow down, which is tantalizing to these fish. They just can't stand a bait hovering in their area during their spawn. So that's the spawn. We go into the post spawn, where for about a week or two after the spawn, you have a lot of fry guarding. Now, If you don't know what fry is, it's basically like a swarm of gnats or tiny insects in the air, but this is occurring in the water. It'll look like a cloud or a shadow just hovering beneath the surface of the water. And where you see that, you usually have males guarding, or you also have females to pull off a little bit that are still in the area. And a Wacky Rig is an excellent way to catch these fish. And when I'm fishing for male garters exclusively, I don't soak it as much, and I keep the bait higher in the column. So what I do is I throw it out, I let it sink, but as soon as it hits the bottom, I'm popping it up and I'm letting it do it again, and I'm keeping it in the top half of the column. I'm trying to keep it up there. I'm trying to keep this bait where the fry are, basically, and that's going to get a protective response from the male that is actively there guarding the fish. For the females, it's a little bit slower. You have to get it a little bit deeper usually. Now this is all relative to your body of water and the type of cover. Lakes without grass, they'll pull out to the first drop. Lakes with grass, they'll probably stay up there for a while. So that's the spawn, the Wacky Rig during the spawn during the month of April. Guys, I guarantee you, if you give it a shot, you're going to catch more fish, especially behind pros. The Wacky Rig or finesse techniques oftentimes get overlooked by the guy in the front of the boat. There are two conditions that you really need to be present for the Wacky Rig to be effective, and that is minimal wind, right? You can't have much wind at all for this bait, since it's a weightless soft plastic. You can't have much wind. The other condition is how your boater is fishing. If he's fishing very fast, this isn't going to be as effective. There are other ways you could make it more effective in that situation, but you need some patience to allow this bait to work, to trigger the response from the fish. So guys, if you haven't tried your Wacky Rig, or if maybe you have tried it, try some of these techniques I've showed you to fish it. We will get into a setup in a more in-depth video later on. But right now we're just Wacky Rigging, and we're talking about the how and where, and the when. And we'll get into more specifics later. So guys, until next time, get out there, try some of these, apply these to your fishing, and I guarantee you're going to get more bites and probably catch bigger fish at the same time. So guys, see ya until next time.